We're live. Okay, so yay! Welcome everyone to the Love Your Life Vegan for Good show. I'm Beverley Buckley, and today I'm interviewing the amazing Will Tuttle, who is going to be speaking to us about the World Peace Diet, his amazing book that he's written, and he's speaking all around the world, and he's driving this information for us to be able to shift our planet and our consciousness. So I'm so wildly excited to have him on our show today, and he's just busy moving his computer to have a better signal. So as soon as he's done that, then I'm going to bring him on, and I'm going to introduce him to you. In the meantime, I think what I'll actually just do, he's doing a bit of a walk there for us. I'm going to just actually give you a bit of info about who he is and what he's done. Dr. Will Tuttle is a visionary educator and is presented widely through North America and worldwide. He's been to South Africa as well. A 35-year vegan. He's the author of the #1 best-selling book, The World Peace Diet, and is a recipient of the Courage Conscience Award and the Empty Cages Prize. He's also editor of a newly released book, Circles of Compassion, Connecting Issues of Justice, devoted to cultural healing and awakening. He is a Dharma master, which is really cool, in the Zen tradition, and his doctorate and degree from the University of California, Berkeley, focused on educating intuition and altruism in adults. He has taught college courses in creativity, humanities, mythology, religion, and philosophy, and he is a composer and concert pianist with 8 CD albums of original piano music. He is noted for his clear and inspiring presentations. I can really account for that, and is featured in the hit film documentary Cowspiracy. So you can actually go and have a look at his website, theworldpeacediet.com, for more details. You can also become a World Peace Diet facilitator, where he's put a course together for people who would like to expand this message, and we need as many of us as possible to get going with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just snip through to Will. Are you there? You ready for us, Will?
Yes, I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear and proud. Amazing.
Great.
Okay, so just obviously I want to just find out from you about your book. What inspired you to write your book? How long has it been since you started this whole from the world peace side of things? I know you've been vegan for quite a while, but how long, with the book, how has that been going, and what's the vision for it essentially?
Thank you, Beverly, and thanks everyone for listening. And basically, I think the underlying motivation for me to write the World Peace Diet was that I realized that there's much more to what veganism is, which is compassion and justice for animals, and living a life by not eating them, wearing them, and so forth, and a sense of connection really with animals and with the environment and with people and with health and sustainability. But as I did more research, both inner research through meditation, I did a lot of long meditation retreats, and then outer research, getting my PhD at Berkeley and taking a lot of courses in anthropology, sociology, public health, and comparative religion, and many other things, and teaching college courses, and just doing more research, I began to realize that our routine mistreatment of animals for food and other products is having consequences far greater than anyone imagines, not just to our health and to the environment and to the poor animals who suffer so much, but at a deeper level to the inner landscape of our consciousness. It really, in many ways, shuts down what I refer to in the World Peace Diet as Sophia, which is the sacred feminine dimension of consciousness. And so we'll never have peace on this planet if we are forcing into our children this mentality of disconnectedness, of turning beings into commodities to be used, a mentality of privilege and elitism, a mentality of exclusion, a mentality of basically of numbing and desensitization. And so really what vegan living actually is at a deep level is reconnecting with our natural wisdom and having a sense that there's an interconnectedness to all of life. And it's through this understanding that we can heal not only our relationship with animals, but with each other, and create the foundation where a world of peace and freedom and justice and sustainability are actually possible.
And so I've recognized with a lot of, I mean, I've read quite a bit of your book, and it's incredible. It's you've touched on so many different consciousness points. That's the one thing I love about it is that veganism is actually about, and this whole way of living is more about consciousness and elevating our consciousness more than anything else. And you really do bring that, you bring about that information so beautifully in your book, because you give the right information. It's like a truth serum when you're reading your book. So
Right.
where did your whole feel about the consciousness side come in, and also with energy? Like, personally, some things that I've perceived is like, from the energy scale, is lower vibrating, if you want to call it, denser foods like meat versus higher vibrating foods like plants or fruit. They have different frequencies. What is your take on that?
Right. Well, I have a whole chapter, actually, Beverly, called The Metaphysics of Food. And I look into that. And I think that's one of the things the World Peace Diet does that I think is important. It's essentially understanding food on every level. And so we can see very clearly, for example, that if we're eating meat, dairy products, and eggs, that these foods concentrate physical toxins. This is well understood. Nobody argues this. All the heavy metals and PCBs and dioxins and nuclear radiation and pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide residues, all that ends up in the water, ends up in soil, ends up on the plants. The animals are eating all that, drinking. So these things all concentrate in the flesh of fish, cows, pigs, chickens, and dairy products, and eggs. And that causes cancer and many problems for us physically. But the thing that I think we really have to also be aware of is that there are what I refer to as metaphysical toxins.
Okay.
And so what we're eating actually are products of extreme terror and fear and anger and anxiety and panic and despair. These animals are driven into complete, basically psychological insanity, where they're banging their heads against bars, pecking each other's eyes out, biting each other's tails, in terror and fear chronically.
And then obviously we're consuming that.
And then when they're actually killed, then the terror and pain become extreme, and then it goes into the flesh. And so other cultures have all recognized that this is a reality, that we're not just eating a piece of matter, we're eating a whole living entity, which is going to have an effect. I mean, there are actual hormonal residues, but I think at a deeper level, what in other, like, ancient wisdom traditions referred to, and like, for example, in Sanskrit, the word prana means energy, the word chi in Chinese means energy. And what these traditions say, and I think there's a lot of wisdom, is that the real vitality in food comes from the chi, or the prana, in the food. So if we're eating foods that have been industrialized and so forth and processed, there's not a lot of energy. But if on top of that, the animals are in terror and pain and anxiety, we're eating the energy of all that too, and we're feeding it to our children. So how can we ever expect to have a world of peace for ourselves when we're sowing the seeds of violence and abuse in these animals, and then eating it, actually eating all that, feeding to our children, building the cells of our tissues out of basically substances that are the exact opposite, right? Terror and fear and anxiety and illness and disease and so forth. So when we, instead of that, if we eat foods that are lovingly grown in organic, and especially I think veganic, so that we're really working in harmony with the beauty of nature, with the abundance of nature, with the sunlight, which brings energy and information, with water and with soil and with seasons. We're working in harmony, and the fruits are freely given, the seeds are freely given, the plants are celebrating their lives. I think we all know that. We can see animals and plants are both celebrating their lives. We should allow the animals to celebrate their lives. We can allow the plants also to celebrate their lives. We can encourage them. As we grow as we grow fruits and things, we're spreading the seeds. We're actually working in harmony with nature, And the beauty in all of this is that there's nothing stopping us right now from changing. You know, we could feed everyone on this planet on a fraction of the land if people would move to a plant-based way of living and stop growing huge amounts of grain to feed the animals. And then we have all these other problems like global climate change from all the methane and nitrous oxide, cutting down of forests, the droughts, the loss of aquifers, the pollution, just the devastation of oceans. You know, all of this devastation environmentally is caused by animal agriculture. We have food shortages because food that could feed people is being fed to animals. Food shortages lead directly to world hunger and to conflict and to war, terrorism, refugees, and all these other problems. And the animals themselves are in misery, and wildlife is being destroyed. We saw it very clearly in Africa when we were visiting that animals that traditionally were allowed to live, like lions and zebras and gazelles and elephants and so forth, are now, as Kentucky Fried Chicken, Burger King, and other as meat-eating spreads, now more land is needed to grow the crops, to feed these animals, and now suddenly we've got to get rid of all these other animals. And if we're not careful, they will all be extinct in 20 or 30 years because of animal agriculture, because really of people taking out their wallets and paying for meat, dairy products, and eggs, which is, shutting down not only the environment and animals, but shutting down our own natural intelligence as well.
And you were also mentioning something about Sophia and the sacred feminine that is now opening. It's now like, it almost feels like we are in a totally different energy now, even compared to 2 years ago. I can feel it myself, even from being vegan, and not vegan is a huge step in the first place, but even the energies, it just feels like it's much easier, if that makes sense, to connect with those frequencies. I'm feeling like meditation is a lot easier, like being relaxed is a lot easier, and it doesn't feel so much stress anymore. But then again, I hear people who are still choosing the meat and still choosing that lifestyle, trying to fit themselves in there, they're having more stress. So what is your take with that, with the divine feminine, the Sophia, you call, obviously Mother Earth is Sophia, the divine feminine, that whole thing coming in. What is your message with that? What is the information you'd like to share about that, and how that is contributing to the changes on our planet at the moment?
That's great what you're saying, Beverly, and it's really true. And I think Sophia, the sacred feminine energy that's within everyone, men and women. I think especially in women, because women, give birth to babies and nurse them and take care of them, so they understand this deep love and for life and caring and protecting life. But men also have this capacity very deeply. But being forced to eat animal foods basically shuts down Sophia. So what veganism is this resurrection of Sophia, which really, I think it's really the key to harmony in our relations with each other. This ability to be receptive to each other, to listen to each other, to respect each other, to protect and care for the family and the community and the neighborhood that we have, to not always be engaged in competitive behavior, shaming and blaming and bullying and being aggressive and trying to get what we want for ourselves. I mean, all of that is based on animal agriculture. It's based on this mentality that I'm going to dominate and exploit other beings for my benefit. And then we feed that to our children, we eat that. And so we create relationships based on competition, aggression, exploitation, the strong dominating the weak. We create economic systems like that. And it all leads to corruption and violence of human beings against other human beings. So the whole idea is to understand that as we treat animals with kindness and respect, as we treat our food with love and the earth with love, and treat other human beings with love and caring, that this feeds this creates a positive cycle. Then when we meditate, we quiet our mind, we're much more relaxed, we're at peace with ourselves. We can go much deeper in meditation. When we go deeper in meditation, we can experience directly the truth that what we are is not separate from the infinite life that is the source of all of us and that is living through everyone. And then when we experience that directly, we're even more inspired to live a life of kindness. But unfortunately, when we're eating meat and dairy from the time we're little kids, we have a very hard time actually meditating. We're anxious, we're frustrated, we're not comfortable with ourselves. We find it difficult to just sit quietly and be at peace. We always want to be active and do something, and so we live in a society that's very busy all the time because people are eating meat and dairy products. They're not comfortable with nature, with themselves, with each other, and that discomfort creates a sense of alienation, and makes it difficult for people to have deep, intimate relationships that are satisfying. So one of the beautiful things I think about going vegan is not only do we reestablish a healthy and harmonious relationship with animals and ecosystems and with our own body, our own health, but we can also then have the foundation for harmonious and healthy relationships with other people, with our husbands and wives and friends and girlfriends and boyfriends and parents and children and co-workers and teachers and students. You know, on every level, we can listen better. We're less afraid of losing our sense of connectedness with our inner wisdom because it's stronger. You know, so we can trust, we can act. And I found this over and over again, talking to people, especially couples who have gone vegan, how much happier their relationships are, you know, how much more healthy they are, how much more joy they feel, how much more gratitude. And when we're healthy, we feel more joy and gratitude anyway, you know. But when we're doing something to make it better for everyone, that increases it more. Yeah.
I definitely get what you're saying with the love thing, because I'm fortunate enough, my fiance and I are both vegan, and we actually went vegan together, and it's something we've always both wanted to do, but in our relationship that we've been in, that they didn't, you know, the other person didn't want to do it. So there is a bit of a conflict when it comes to if you're trying to do it and the rest of the people that you're around aren't, which is leading to my next question, is to do with our culture. It's almost like we get culturally indoctrinated with meat and dairy, that it's good for you. I know there's another lady who's spoken about it being natural, normal, and necessary, and that's how we basically get programmed. So we don't really know any different. What is your take on the whole cultural side of that? And then the second part of that question is, how would we, as either transitioning to being vegan or being from meat eating to vegetarian or vegetarian to vegan or being vegan, how do we manage, how do we function in a culture like that? Or how do we bring this message across to people who are not aware of this, or who are still I kind of like to think of them as almost like they're still sleeping. They haven't seen what life is. It's like they haven't experienced life yet. It's like they're still in a box, and they can't see beyond the box because they stuck in, you know, it's like they just actually, it sticks you. What is your take on the cultural side, and how could we, I mean, I know that I'm asking quite a big, long, elongated question here, but it's quite a multi-dynamic question. Is, you know, it's been indoctrinated. Was it set up like that, firstly? And then how do we kind of overcome that? And how do we gently, with kindness, let some of our friends and family know what they're doing to themselves, and try and kind of show them what's on the other side of the fence if they just tried it? How could we start to do that? You know, because I think that's the biggest obstacle for a lot of people, is trying to find support from family and friends, because the culture is so anti it. You know, it's like we're extremists, and it's like, what? No.
Right. Yeah, the hardest thing I think about going vegan is really other people. And other people are not vegan. Most people are not vegan in our society. You know, we've all been, that's the point. But the point to understand is that we've all been wounded by being raised in a society where we've been forced from the time we're little infants to participate in mealtime rituals, which are very powerful, where we have to not just watch adults eat the flesh and secretions of horribly abused animals, but we have to eat it too. And so that's kind of shuts down our self-esteem, our self-confidence. And so what veganism is about essentially is questioning the official stories in our society, questioning the violence in our society, and then also moving the way we live, and actually not just questioning it, but actually changing the way we're actually behaving so that our behavior reflects our values. So when we do that, we naturally feel more whole. We feel better about ourselves. We have more self-confidence, more self-respect, more self-esteem. But at the same time, we've suddenly put ourselves maybe in conflict with everybody else, all our friends,
Exactly.
our whole family.
Exactly.
And they may start attacking us, or we may feel rejected, or they may feel rejected because we're not eating their food anymore. And we may start to feel alone and alienated. Maybe if we don't have other vegan friends or a community of supportive people, it can be very lonely, perhaps, or it can be just a difficult time. So I think it's important for vegans to support each other, for people who are moving toward a more kind and compassionate and healthy way of living, to look for guidance, for help from people who have done it longer. Maybe if there's nobody living right in your area where you live, maybe online. There's some great online groups, Facebook groups, and so forth that can be helpful. And try to somehow create community, because there's a lot of understanding today among psychologists of the power of association. You know, we very much, who we associate with makes a big impact on us. And so as we go vegan, we begin to become an influence on other people naturally, without even saying anything.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's important to realize that what veganism is. Another word for veganism is love. It is love. It's love, it's kindness, it's caring, it's mercy, it's tenderness, it's gentleness, it's freedom, it's celebration of life. It's an extremely positive action and set of attitudes that are based on loving kindness. And so the most effective way to help bring the vegan message to the world is to do the best we can to embody these positive qualities of kindness and respect and consideration and caring, not just for animals, but for human animals. You know, even people we find doing things we don't like, as Mahatma Gandhi said, we should never hate the person. We can hate what they're doing, but don't ever hate the person. Love the person. We might not agree with what they're doing, but we can love the person. We can understand that people have all been wounded. So some people are still eating meat and dairy and eggs, but that's because they've been forced into it. And it takes a while to heal from that. And so I think we are most effective when we're not arguing with people. We're not trying to change them. As soon as I try to change someone, they're going to resist. And that's not going to really work very well. So instead of trying to change people, you know, let go of that whole model and adopt the model of planting seeds. So we're just planting seeds with our words, with our actions, with how we live, with our smile. We're planting seeds, and the more we live this, the more effectively we will plant seeds. The seeds will go deeper, and it'll just be a wonderful opportunity for someone to be in our presence, because we're just living what veganism is. And I found over the years that the best way to do that in many ways is just to talk about ourselves. And don't say, well, you'll be healthier if you do this, or you'll be happier. You know, don't use the you word too much. Use the I word more. Like, I found that I'm so grateful that I discovered that if I start eating a plant-based diet, I have more energy and I feel fantastic. And no one can argue with that. That's my experience. I'm just sharing my experience, but I'm dropping a seed. Or if I say something like this, I'm so grateful that I realize that the only reason I was eating meat and dairy product was because I was following orders that were injected into me from the time I was little infant against my will, and they're not in my best interest. I'm so glad I realized that. And if we just share those kinds of ideas with people, we're not blaming them or shaming them or judging. We're just sharing our experience and doing it in a loving way, and they will think, that's actually happened to me too. Maybe it's something to this. And they'll change on their own. And when they change on their own, then they own it. Then they really believe in it. They're not being coerced and changed. They're really wanting to change. And then you've helped create a situation where someone can really not only change, but do the change themselves rather than being influenced from the outside.
That's beautiful. I love that, and it's so true because there's always that saying that says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And the funny thing is, when people see it in you, they see that you've got this love and this joy and this happiness just exude. I mean, it's like I've been looking for the magic pill through spirituality, through reading all these spiritual books and meditating and doing yoga. And obviously I was still doing the plant-based, the animal-based consumption, and I wanted to shift, but I just didn't know how. And eventually it just kind of just slotted into place. And I feel like it was just so easy, and it's just so easy to be vegan. It's crazy how easy it is. And when people look at you, they look at you and they go, "Oh, what is she? I want what she's having." You know, that there's that movie with the pudding when she's going, "Oh, yes, this is so good." And people go, "Oh, I want what she's having," because that pudding is like really good as she's having those sounds come out of her, you know? So, so I think if we, like, I love the way that you've put that we just need to exude what we and who we are, and the confidence that we feel, because yes, it kind of feels like you've come out of the closet when you become vegan. It's kind of that kind of feeling, and it makes so much, I love it because it makes so much sense. Just be everything that you are, and people naturally gravitate towards that and want to be like that and say, what is she doing? And then have the courage or have the desire to try it. Yes,
right, exactly. And then I think as people do that, then they'll learn the ropes, so to speak. Learn, you know, like you say, you know, how to make foods that are plant-based, that are delicious, nutritious, that don't cost a lot of money. It's less expensive.
It is.
How to prepare them, how to make substitutions, you know, all those kinds of things. They're not difficult, but there is a little bit of learning to go on. But the underlying feeling is a feeling of joy, of adventure, of discovery, of healing, of helping to create a better world, of finding all new tastes that are so delicious. I mean, you don't give up anything, and in fact, you get a lot more.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And then, so you mostly, the way that you think about, obviously, the diet, the food side of it is more to do with, you're more focused on definitely the vegetables and everything, because I know that there's different levels to this. There's like fruitarians, and then there's people that do, I mean, I'm talking just basically from the living foods, vegetable side, not necessarily, because there's obviously other whole stories with the vegetarian and stuff, but specifically with fruits and vegetables, we've got fruitarians, we've got the vegans, and then we also have something that I've been looking at is breatharianism, and I'd like to know a little bit of your points of view on that and what your thoughts or feelings are on that, and also linking it into like consciousness. Like, if you're eating more fruit, are you going to be more conscious, or you or should you go, because there's even some people that say you should just eat grasses, you should just eat wild grasses and mushrooms, those are like the best, and chocolate, for example. Like, what is your thoughts on all of these different ways and thoughts and things around that?
Right. Well, I think I think the most important thing is that it's plant-based. And then I think on top of that, that it's organic, or it's preferably veganically grown. So we're not using, you know, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and chemical fertilizers on whatever foods they are, and also hopefully not using bone meal and blood meal and fish meal as well. So growing our own food in our own gardens is ideal. Sprouting our own sprouts and things is great, and then also minimally processed, so that we're buying pretty much whole foods. We're not buying packaged processed foods that come out of factories. But then as far as after that, I think actually that it's important to get enough calories. And a lot of people who go vegan, for example, eat a lot of vegetables and fruits. But vegetables are very nutrient dense, but they're not calorie dense, and even fruits are not very calorie dense either. So the problem that a lot of people have is they try to be, I think, too pure in that sense, and don't get enough calories, and then can't maintain it and start having food cravings, and then start then eating heavy fatty foods like peanut butter and whatever, something just to get enough calories. And I think really that Dr. John McDougall talks, he has a book called The Starch Solution. I think there's a lot of truth in that. Like, eat a lot of vegetables, lots of fruits and living foods. But I would say it's good to have a good foundation also of some basic starchy foods like potatoes, sweet potatoes, grains. They're loaded with calories, which are what our body uses for energy, for running around and doing and celebrating our life. But also our brain runs on glucose, and glucose, it uses a lot. I mean, our brain is only like, I think it's like 3% of our body weight, but uses 40% of the energy. It needs a lot of energy. And glucose basically is a byproduct of breaking down complex carbohydrates, like are in fruits, but also especially are in grains and starchy starch. So so like for me, living as a Zen monk in Korea, we ate mainly rice with vegetables, tofu, and some fruits and things, and it's really a foundation for great health. I think it's good to eat, like we eat basically breakfast and lunch are mostly raw, uncooked, like a green smoothie and a big salad for lunch, or a wrap. But I think maybe for dinner, like what we do is we have some starch as well as vegetables. So make sure you're getting enough calories so you have plenty of energy, you're clear, and so forth. Now, all that being said, you ask about breatharianism. That's something where, and I think there are people who have accomplished that, for sure. There are some that have, but it's not for, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, there's quite a few people who have attempted to do breatharianism, and basically you keep purifying your diet and eating less and less food and you're fasting, but then at a certain point, your body has to make a switch so that it's getting the energy straight from the sun and light and the air and through your breathing. And the problem is, if your body does not make that switch and you just keep pushing and keep fasting, and people have done that, they've caused themselves permanent brain damage, and some people have even died, trying to become breatharian. So it's something you need to have some real guidance. I wouldn't recommend it. To someone. But if it's a calling you have, you can try it. But just know that at a certain point, if your body does not make that switch and you just keep not eating, you could really damage yourself. So that's the thing to be aware of.
Okay. Well, that's a good bit of information there. Another thing I wanted to just touch on is you speak about the World Peace Diet. I've read it with your book. It's not just about food diet. It's about mental diet, emotional diet, spiritual diet, relationship diet. It's a very holistic picture, and I love the reason. I love that you use the word diet because it kind of is a bit of a play on what everyone is doing all the time. It's kind of like, there's all these diets, and it's like, you know what? Let's just get ourselves towards ourselves, because the main thing we really need here is peace. So can we just have a peace diet? Can we just have that? So what is your take with that? And I know you probably did that intentionally, but just give us a bit of your thought processes with the way you structured it and you put it together.
Right. Yeah. The word. You're right. I mean, the word diet is perfect in a sense, because we're eating food, but we're also eating on every other level. Like if I'm reading books, I'm eating that. If I'm watching television or movies, I'm eating that. If I'm listening to music, I'm eating that. If I go out into nature and I see the beautiful flowers and trees and birds, I'm eating that. We're always eating, we're partaking, we're consuming in a certain way, water, air, media, reading, and then we're also thinking, and we're having feelings, and we're talking to ourselves. We're always talking. All of that is, in a sense, part of the diet. And so having a mental diet that's positive, that's healthy, where we're remembering the truth of what we are, that what we are is actually a manifestation of eternal life, where we're having feelings that go along with that of joy and gratitude, that we cultivate that. Also, that we live our life in a way, in a form of discipline. You know, like people think of veganism as a form of discipline. It is a form of discipline on one level. I mean, we're just saying it's clear we're not going to eat meat, dairy products, and eggs. We're eating this way. And to some people that looks discipline, but like any discipline, like for me, I love playing the piano. You know, I just play, I can sit down and freely just play and create, and I love it. But it was a long time when I practiced every day, right? I had to go through the discipline of practicing. And so I think it's important for us to realize that we have the greatest joy when we live our lives to minimize the amount of violence we're causing. So I think part of veganism is not only all these types of consuming that we try to bring into harmony, so that we're reading and watching and partaking of things that are uplifting and helpful and instructive and inspiring and so forth, and not just things that are either harming others or harming ourselves, but also that we purchase all products like cleaning products, personal care products. You know, there's so many toxins in these products. We put them on our skin. We clean, you know, things with all these toxic chemicals in our houses, and they're gassing everywhere. It's really, I think, important to see the big picture of what we're buying, the foods and products in general, and then our thoughts and feelings, and then also to minimize the amount of disconnectedness from nature. You know, like in our house, for example, we don't run the heater and the air conditioner and all these things too much. I mean, just a little bit, maybe a tiny bit, but for the most part, we want to have a certain discipline where our bodies are strong and they respond. And if it's really hot, it's okay. You know, if it's really cold, it's okay. You know, we can kind of handle it. But I think, you know, in our society, we do everything we can in a way to escape from any kind of discomfort. And we don't want we want to be comfortable at all costs. We want to have the softest pillow, and the temperature is always exactly right. And the foods have to be full of a lot of sugar and fat because they're really delicious then. You know, and all this, and that kind of softness and craving comfort creates misery, actually. We're more unhappy. And I found that, you know, instead of that, if we, you know, learn to tolerate, you know, temperatures, tolerate things that are maybe difficult physically, it just creates so much more joy and aliveness, a sense of being alive. I'm connected to what the temperature is. I'm connected to nature, the climate, and it's how animals live. You know, animals are in nature. They're living, and they're able to do that. I think we humans can do that too. We've lost that some. I think it's good to learn to do that again.
Yes, I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, is to receive everything that happens to us, or any space that we're in, is to receive that fully, but also to be mindful of what we're choosing. Like I said to my fiance Joe, we went to watch a movie, and you know, it would usually be a kind of movie that I'd like to watch because it was kind of sci-fi and like futuristic and kind of thing. And we walked out of the movie, and I said, I don't want to watch any more movies with violence in. I just can't. I can't do this anymore, because it's been very interesting. I've been looking at things with kindness and recognizing kindness in myself, and I've never thought of myself as a kind person. You know, I've never looked at myself and go, wow, I'm actually kind. And it's been a realization for me that I'm actually a very kind person, but I denied that part of my personality because it wasn't acceptable in our culture. Because there's all these belief systems about it's cruel to be kind. You have to be cruel to be kind, and you know, if you're kind, people think you're weak. And there's this whole idea around that you've got to be strong. There's something wrong if you're not working hard. You know, it's like we get taught that we need to be beating ourselves all the time. And one of the things that I'm discovering is, as I'm being kinder to myself, I'm naturally letting those walls come down. People are being kinder to me, and I'm perceiving more kindness and more love in everywhere that I go. And I happen to be sidestepping situations that would be a violent situation just purely by accident. It just doesn't work in my space anymore, which I find quite fascinating. And there was something that a word that kind of comes to my mind is benevolence. Like it seems like a very, it would be nice if we could all start to focus and create this kind of benevolent future. What is your take on that? But before you answer me, I just want to ask quickly, if there's anyone who'd like to ask a question, please type it in the question box, because we're going to be covering some questions just now. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We're going to ask Will some of these questions, and if there's anything more that you'd like to receive from Will, that would be amazing. So yes, sorry, Will, about the benevolence and our wonderful benevolent future.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful word, and I think that's essentially what veganism is. What we're talking about here is cultivating an attitude of benevolence, which is really the foundation of justice also, and it's also the foundation of sanity, of a world that works for each other. It's the foundation of a mother's love for her little baby is benevolent, right? She cares and protects, and we can all have that. We can all cultivate that for each other. And as we do that, we come into harmony with, I think, with our true nature, with our true wisdom. So I think that's it. What you're feeling is exactly right, and we get repulsed, I think, more and more by movies that have violence that's like completely unnecessary. People, I think, eat violence, and then they sort of subconsciously crave to see the violence that they're afraid to actually acknowledge, and that's why they're drawn to these things. But I think as vegans, why would we want to? We don't want to add to the violence in the world. We want to reduce it. It's just devastating in its impact. I'm going to have to wrap it up pretty soon, but I'm happy to maybe if there's any questions.
Perfect.
You can.
Well, that's great. No, I mean, if there doesn't seem like there's any questions here. And I think what I'll do is, if anyone has any questions, just I've got someone who said, people always ask, where'd you get your protein?
Right.
So
yeah, that one, I think, the main thing with that is to agree with people, say, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I always felt the same way. If you take away the meat on the plate, where do you get your protein? But then so use I statements. Then I did a little research, and I realized that actually plant-based proteins are much higher quality than animal-based proteins, and that all the amino acids that make all the proteins are manufactured by plants. All 21 amino acids are manufactured by plants. And so if we eat the plants directly, we get the proteins that we need, and our bodies can easily create. There's over 40 million different proteins our body makes actually to run, but they all come from these 21 amino acids. So it's very easy to get plenty of protein if we eat grains and fruits and vegetables and so forth. They all have anywhere from 10 to 40% of their calories in protein, and according to all the research, we only need somewhere between 5 and 10% of our calories to be in protein. So plant-based sources are rich in a variety of higher quality proteins.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up for us now. So if there is anyone, obviously, we've launched a campaign called Vegan for Good, which you can, I'll actually post the links down on the video and also on the replay page. And then obviously, Dr. Will Tuttle has got his amazing book called The World Peace Diet. You also run programs. Well, just if you don't mind, just giving us a bit of info on your programs that you run for people who would like to start, because I'm kind of feeling like I'm a pro-activist vegan rather than just, I kind of eat.
Yeah.
Vegan, your kind of support that you offer vegans to be, or people who want to be vegan, to make that switch?
Right. Yeah. So basically, we have, if anyone reads the World Peace Diet and then would like to go more deeply into these ideas, we have the World Peace Diet Facilitator Training Program. It's on our website. If you just go to worldpeacediet.com, and it's basically two main things. One is to help people thrive as vegans in a not yet vegan world. There's a whole kind of art to that. And number two, to become more effective as advocates for vegan living. So to just learn to be more effective, to be able to share these ideas with other people in a way that's helpful to them and to our society. So that's it. It's just going more deeply into these and learning to become, I think, in some ways better activists and happier people as vegans. And it's really about moving on along the adventure of veganism to the point where we're at the stage of deep veganism, is what I call it, where we're really living this understanding from a deeper level. And it's just fantastic, actually, adventure to go on, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so if anyone would like to find out some more information, you can actually contact me directly. It's beveganforgood@gmail.com, or you can go onto Will's website, the World Peace Diet, find out more information there. Obviously, we're also running the Vegan for Good campaign. If you'd like to find out more about that, I'll post the link here. That's also geared at supporting vegans, so you can start to do what you need to do with finding the ways to get yourself supported and building community. That's the whole goal with the Vegan for Good campaign. But I'll put the link there. You can go check it out for yourself there as well. And I want to say thank you, very, 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 very abundant blessings. Thank you so much, Will, for joining us today and for being a part of this, and for your amazing book and all the inspiring things that you've brought through, and the gifts that you give, and your music and everything. You're an inspiration to me, and I'm sure an inspiration to many, many other vegans and people alike. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Beverly. You know, I really want to encourage everyone to get involved with the Vegan for Good campaign that you're doing. I think it's just beautiful, and the idea that you have behind it of building vegan community and reaching 1 billion people with this message it's ambitious, but that's what we should do. You know, have a goal that we can dream of and work toward attaining. And there's I can't think of anything more noble, more valuable, more important, more vital for us to do than to reach 1 billion people. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I highly support what you're doing, and I just wish you all the best. You're very inspirational to me as well, so thanks very much.
Yay! Okay, so you've made my day, and my week, and my month, and my year. And I'm going to say goodbye now, and goodbye to everyone who's been on our live stream today. We're going to be having more of these in the future, so we're looking to have one every week and interviewing another amazing vegan person, or there's a few things we're going to be looking at. But if you've got any requests, just let us know, and I'm going to say another bye to.
All right, so long.
Thank you so much. Lots of love to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.